Good morning, Maharaj. Please accept my humble, respectful obeisances at your feet. How are you today?
My obeisances to you, Mahaprabhu, and all glories to all the Vaishnavas. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
Well, thank you for allowing us to even ask you to be here. So I quickly will explain what the format is in general, and this is adjustable. You can do it as you wish. Some devotees choose to sing an abbreviated version of Jai Radha Madhava. If you don't have any musical skills, please spare us. That will be fantastic. Otherwise, please go for it. And then you read the verse in Sanskrit and the synonyms, and just all yourself, the text and purport, and you can stop and go, or you can choose a different topic, as we're just elated that you're here. So, and I can make you the host if you want to share the screen. Okay, you're the host now. For those who don't know, I did send a bio and a picture of yourself to all the participants, but you're probably the newest sannyasi that we have in the movement. Congratulations on your career choice, and you've been your name has been dancing around, at least your former name, as a very capable, intelligent, kind devotee who's been preaching Krishna consciousness since the moment you joined. So please take it away. Make it your own program.
Thank you so much, Mahaprabhu, and my humble obeisances to all the Vaishnavas. With your permission and blessings, I'll try to share something today. And before I go into a short verse, really I was just going to speak on the topic, but I'll also add in one verse which is relevant to the topic. And Sarvatma Prabhu asked me to share something that's close to my heart. And one thing I've really been thinking about a lot over the past months and maybe longer is the process of transformation in Krishna consciousness, which really is an interesting topic to me. So today I'll try to share some thoughts on that transformation in spiritual life, what that means and how it happens and why it's so exciting. So we'll do that. But perhaps I'll just do a Mangala Charan. We'll read the verse and then I'll share a PowerPoint. And what I'll try to do is maybe within 40 minutes, 45 minutes, I'll probably stop. And then in about 45 minutes, I'll open it up for discussion, because I think this topic is interesting when we have a lot more discussion and inputs from the devotees. So please, at any point, if you have anything you'd like to share, perhaps you can put it on the chat, or you can just make a note of it and then we'll open it up. Om Agyan Timiran Hasigyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So I'll just begin today by sharing a verse with you from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, a verse that many of us are familiar with, a verse that Srila Prabhupada often quoted, and it's a verse which appears in the Madhya Leela of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing the Goswamis, first instructing Sanatan or Rupa Goswami first at Allahabad at the Dashashvamedha Ghat, and then later on Sanatan Goswami at Varanasi, and then giving them all the philosophy of Krishna consciousness in a structured way and instructions on how to establish the movement of Krishna consciousness for generations to come. So this is a very, very famous verse. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhya Kabunoi Shravana Adi Sudhachite Karaye Udoy. Nitya Siddha, eternally established. Krishna Prem, love for Krishna. Sadhya, to be gained. Kabhu, at any time. Noi, not. Shravanadi, by hearing, etc. Shuddha, purified. Chitta, in the heart. Karaye Udoy, awakens. Translation: pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of all the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, this love naturally awakens. So very, very beautiful verse. And I'm just going to go over to a PowerPoint. And the translation of this verse is also on the PowerPoint here. So for me, the topic of transformation is an incredible topic in Krishna consciousness. When Srila Prabhupada was presenting Krishna consciousness to the world, he didn't so much present it as a faith or a belief, but rather he presented it as a spiritual science. And a spiritual science means there is a hypothesis, there's an experiment or a practice, and then there are observable symptoms, observable changes, observable transformations that take place, which verify that this is actually the truth, that this is actually something that really works, that this is scientifically experienced. And in this way, transformation for me is at the heart of our Krishna consciousness movement, because it's really something that we should be able to show the world, that by practicing Krishna consciousness, transformation occurs. And I think my sense is that this is what will be perhaps our most powerful preaching tool. I think transformation is important for two reasons. Firstly, on an individual level in a devotee's life, unless there's really transformation, I think it will be very, very difficult for a devotee to stay inspired in Krishna consciousness. The practices of Krishna consciousness remain the same. The mantra stays the same. The books that we read stay the same. The festivals that we celebrate every single year stay the same. And therefore, unless there's a deeper awakening of transformation, which allows one to access and engage with these practices on a deeper level, at some point, someone may get bored with Krishna consciousness because they don't see any difference. They don't see that they're finding any variety, because we're simply engaging with the practice on the same level of consciousness. And so I think for devotees to remain inspired and enthused in devotional service, seeing transformation and having the ability to access our spiritual process on a deeper level is what will keep them enthused. The second reason I think transformation in our movement is so important is that I think it's our best way to preach to the world, and it's our best way to convince the world about Krishna consciousness. I'm just going to share with you, here's a quote from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was perhaps the first pioneer who was looking at how to spread Krishna consciousness beyond the boundaries of India, and he sent his written work, Sri Chaitanya, his life and precepts, he sent that to Canada, to McGill University. And in that work, he writes something amazing. He says, "We make no objection if the reader does not believe his miracles, as miracles alone never represent the Godhead. It is unlimited prema and its overwhelming influence which can be seen in no one other than God himself. We leave it to our readers to decide how to view Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." So here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying something incredible. He's saying that Mahaprabhu did many miracles. He cured the leper Vasudev. He manifested many mangoes for the pleasure of the devotees. He manifested himself in many kirtan parties in the Rath Yatra. But the real thing which proves the Mahaprabhu's divinity is that the love that he exuded and that the love he was able to awaken within others. This is the greatest miracle. This is the greatest proof of Mahaprabhu's divinity, the transformation that he was able to trigger within others. Here you see a picture of Mahaprabhu in Varanasi, where all the Mayavadi sannyasis were transformed by Mahaprabhu's influence. And that was a major preaching breakthrough. So transformation is so important for our own spiritual lives and for the success of the Krishna consciousness movement. Even when Srila Prabhupada was once on stage on the Pandal and someone challenged, there are many yogis, there are gurus, and they can all do miracles. What is your miracle? And Prabhupada looked at all of his disciples on stage and he said, they are my miracle. Look where they were and look where they are now. Look who they were and look who they are now. In other words, look at how much their life has been transformed by practicing Krishna consciousness. That is the real miracle. And so this is a very, very important topic, because the reality is that many of us in the Krishna consciousness movement may not feel a transformation, or many of us may not be looking deeply enough to see whether transformation is actually occurring. But this is extremely important. The reason I chose this verse to begin the presentation is because when we talk about transformation in Krishna consciousness, in one sense, it's not actually the ideal word, because what we're trying to achieve in Krishna consciousness is not to actually turn into something new or transform into something different, but really what we're looking to do is awaken what's already there, unleash the prema that already, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem, which is already within the heart. And so in Krishna consciousness, although we use the word transformation, actually what we're talking about is a transformation by which we awaken that which is already there. In the world today, some philosophers call this destructive enlightenment. When you take away everything that's artificial or superficial to yourself, then you're actually left with who you are. One French philosopher, he says, enlightenment is not when there's nothing new to add, but it's when there's nothing left to take away. So essentially, the spirit soul is covered by so many anarthas, and the spirit soul is covered by so many upadhis. So what does the scripture say? Sarvapadi vinirmuktam tatparatvaina nirmalam. When you engage in bhakti yoga, then all the upadhis are immediately taken away. And anartho pashamam shakshad bhakti yoga madoksaje. When you engage in bhakti yoga, all the anarthas which are superfluous are taken away. And when all upadhis and all anarthas are taken away, then prema awakens within the living entity. And that is the transformation that we all seek so much in our life. So this is just to orientate our discussion today. Transformation is incredibly important for ourselves, our ongoing inspiration. Transformation is incredibly important for the work of the Krishna consciousness movement, which is to inspire the world to take up this practice. And when we talk about transformation, what we're really talking about is an awakening of prema within the heart of the living entity. So prema, and how much prema we have, how much love we have for Krishna, how much love we've awakened, is probably the ultimate marker of transformation. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kaviraj Goswami says, Prema dhana vina vyartha daridra jivan das kori vetan mora nahe prema dhan. He says, Prema dhana vina vyartha, without the wealth of prema, daridra jivan, I should be considered an impoverished soul. And therefore he makes a prayer, Dasa kori, oh my Lord, make me your servant. Vetan more, and I only pray for one salary, Deha prema dhan, please give me love. So love is our cherished aspiration. In the Vedic system, we know that there are 4 Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. But Mahaprabhu established Srimad Bhagavatam Brahmamamalam Prema Pumartho Mahan, that the 5th goal of life, the ultimate goal of life, the cherished aspiration of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas is prema, love for Krishna. And so we need to look in our hearts and ask, how much love do we have for Krishna? I remember in Redeem the Marriage in one class, he said, all of the service, all of the sadhana, all of the austerities, all of the determined practices that we engage in spiritual life are just so that one day we can sit down in one corner of the room and chant one name of Krishna and experience one genuine teardrop of love fall from our eye. And he said, if we get to that point, then we're doing well. And so the ultimate transformation that we look for is prema. However, our scriptures explain that there are many, many other types of transformation around the awakening of love that we can hope to experience within our own life. And it's good for us to recap and reflect on this, because what I'm going to share with you on this slide can then be used as a means for introspection, for us to look at our own lives and ask ourselves, am I transforming? Is my practice of Krishna consciousness bringing about a change in my life? Srila Prabhupada explained that one clear sign of transformation in Krishna consciousness is that one's desires will change. That as we advance in Krishna consciousness, then the desire for material enjoyment should decline, and the desire to serve Krishna in many ways should become more and more prominent. Instead of seeing the world with our aspirations at the center, we begin to see the world with Krishna's aspirations at the center. Krishna talks about this in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna explains Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina raso varajam rasopyasya param drishva nivartate. That when one gives up the lower taste diminishes based on the higher taste, the spiritual desires awakening. And so one should be able to look in their own hearts and say, where are my desires? Where are my daily aspirations? What are my goals? Are my goals changing? Are my goals based around personal, selfish desires, or are my goals based around service to Krishna? This is a very clear sign of transformation. Another very clear sign of transformation is our character. The Bhagavatam 5th canto explains, Yasyasti bhakti bhagavatya kinchana sarvair gunai statra samasate suraha. That when one engages in bhakti, then all the good qualities of the demigods begin to manifest within that person's character. Sarva Guna Maha Vaishnava Sharire, the Chaitanya Charitamrita says that all the great qualities of the gods are awakened within the character of a Vaishnava. So therefore we find in the Bhagavad Gita many times Krishna is giving breakdowns of what is the character of a self-realized soul. And one of the objectives there is to help us do some soul searching and say, I've been in Krishna consciousness 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Is my character changing? Am I developing the qualities of a Vaishnava? Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is explaining, Abhayam, Satvasam, Sudhir, Jnana Yoga, Vyavastiti. He says in the next verse, Ahimsa, non-violence, Satyam, truthfulness, Akrodas, freedom from anger, Tyaga, renunciation, Kshantir, forgiveness. All these qualities, are they manifesting within me? This is another great tool to measure our progress and our transformation in Krishna consciousness. Another measure of our transformation in Krishna consciousness is faith. Ultimately, when faith matures to its ultimate degree, Chaitanya Charitamrita explains, Shraddha Shabde Vishvash Kohe Sudhrida Nishchoy Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. When one's faith evolves to the point where they feel, if I serve Krishna, everything else in my life will be fulfilled, then their faith has been completely invested in Krishna. So that's where we're trying to get to. But as we practice Krishna consciousness, our faith increases in different degrees. Ado Shraddha, we have to begin with some faith. But later on, that Shraddha should mature into Nishta, a conviction. And that Nishta later on matures into this strong Vishvash, this strong determination that if I serve Krishna, everything will be fulfilled. So another measure that we can look at in our own hearts and minds, that how much is my faith evolving in Krishna consciousness? How much has my faith transformed in Krishna consciousness? Another thing we can look at is our commitment to sadhana, our commitment to service, our commitment to living a life which is based around Krishna. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, when Rupa Goswami is talking about the symptoms of bhav, one of the first symptoms that Rupa Goswami mentions is avyartha kalatvam, that one who is awakened emotion for Krishna, they can't stand to waste any time, that time that could be used in service to Krishna. And so we see that as one is transforming, their commitment to Krishna is transforming. The word guru means heavy. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he gives an interesting reflection on this. He said, Guru is heavy, not just heavy in knowledge, but heavy in the sense that he is rooted at the lotus feet of Krishna, and nothing can move him from that commitment to being at Krishna's feet. 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the line, the Guru is still right there at the feet of Krishna, serving, committed. That is a sign of transformation, that one's commitment becomes deeper and deeper. Another sign of transformation is that one's habits change, one's lifestyle changes, and all of this is based on the fact that the modes within that person change. In the Bhagavatam, the frequently quoted verses by Srila Prabhupada talk about this, where in the first canto it's mentioned, Shrinvatam Svakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridyanta Stohya Bhadrani Vidunoti Surat Satam. First, what is mentioned is that when we engage in hearing and chanting, the heart becomes cleansed. But what happens when the heart becomes cleansed? Tadara Jastamo Bhava Kamalo Vadayaschaye Cheta Eta Ranavidam Stitam Sattve Prasidati. That the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance decline. Stitam Sattve Prasidati, and one becomes established in goodness and pure goodness. In other words, one begins to transcend the lower modes of nature as one is experiencing transformation in Krishna consciousness. So this is another measure by which we can understand how we're moving forward and transforming in Krishna consciousness. What do my habits, lifestyle, and modes of nature look like? And here's one more way we can look at our transformation in Krishna consciousness. Where's my taste? The sages of Naimisharanya have incredible taste. They say, Vayam tu na vitripyama uttama shloka vikrame yatrinvatam rasa jnanam swadu swadu pade pade. When they're hearing Bhagavatam, they say, Yatrinvatam rasa jnanam, hearing the Bhagavatam, hearing this transcendental vibration, we're experiencing it to be full of rasa, full of taste, full of relish, full of divine mellow. And therefore, swadu swadu, pade pade, at every single step, while hearing Hari Katha, we're experiencing newer and newer taste. One can measure one's transformation in Krishna consciousness as to how much taste do we have to remain in the vibration of Hari Kirtan and Hari Katha. How much are we able to hear the Bhagavatam with rapt attention? How much are we able to chant Hare Krishna with deep absorption and very little distraction? This is again a sign of how much we're transforming in Krishna consciousness. Because if we practice Krishna consciousness for a long time, but our ability to be absorbed because of our taste in the activities of hearing and chanting, if that doesn't come about, it's something we have to look at because it may indicate a lack of transformation. So I share this with you just for your own reflection, based on the statements of Shastra, that the ultimate transformation we're looking for is prema, but there will be many, many other transformations that should occur within us should we be practicing Krishna consciousness powerfully and according to how it's been given by our acharyas and by Srila Prabhupada. This is what we have to look forward to. And this is the process of transformation. I'm wondering whether I should just stop there for a moment and just see whether anyone may have any questions they would like to ask, at least on this part, of the presentation in terms of transformation, what kind of transformation we're looking for, and what we can expect. Yes. So, Mahaprabhu, would you like to add something, or is that?
Not add, but perhaps ask, inquire a little further. When I see these different tools to achieve transformation, I think, well, if a true Vaishnava is someone who feels completely unqualified, how can we assert our position without false modesty on the one hand, or without feeling the desperation that I'm not there at all? So how do you solve this dichotomy? If I'm a really advanced devotee, then either I will say, well, I don't have any of those things. I don't have taste. I don't have any changes in my character. I don't have anything. I don't have anything. And if it's true, then it's true. And if it is not true, you will say it anyway, out of this false humility that we are trying to cultivate as true humility. So please.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a great question. And just to kind of reinforce the point you've made, I'm just bringing up this verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Premera svabhava yaha premera sambandh, say mane Krishna mora nahi prema gandh. Kaviraj Goswami says, wherever there is a relationship of love of Godhead, its natural symptom is that the devotee does not think himself a devotee. Instead, he always thinks that he has not even a drop of love for Krishna. So now this is almost a mystery. On one hand, here I am presenting that transformation is the goal of Krishna consciousness. The ultimate transformation is that we want to see love awakening. But the reality is that if one actually develops love, then they feel, I don't have any love at all. And therefore, can we ever even measure our own progress in bhakti? It's a very interesting question. Thank you for raising this. Let me first try to frame what does this actually mean when the devotee feels they don't have any love? This is my reflection on this. Recently, I went to Switzerland and we were doing a retreat in the Alps. And when you see a mountain and you see it from far, then the mountain looks very big. But what happens is that when you're actually getting closer and closer to the mountain, the enormity of the mountain becomes much greater and you realize, oh my God, this mountain is really huge. And in relation, you feel yourself to be smaller and smaller. Now, this is my understanding of this verse, that when one actually gets closer and closer to Krishna, when one actually feels more and more appreciation for Krishna's greatness, then they're actually getting closer to Krishna. But what it is that they're feeling smaller and smaller because their appreciation for Krishna is getting greater and greater. And therefore, their sense that I don't have any love for Krishna is based on their growing appreciation for Krishna's, how wonderful Krishna is. And therefore, although they feel they don't have any love for Krishna, actually, the reason they're feeling they don't have that love for Krishna is because they're feeling very, very insignificant in relation to Krishna's greatness. And so I think that's an important distinction and an important observation to make. Now, how do we actually measure? Clearly, if Shastra is giving all of these things, for example, we have Madhurya Kadambini and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying, at different stages, these are the things you should experience. So clearly what that means is that we must be able to somewhat map our progress in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, why would we have all of these measures of transformation which are given? Why would Madhurya Kadambini say there are 9 stages, and when you are Anishtita Bhakta, these are the kind of things that you'll experience, and when you get to Nishta, there'll be an absence of these things. Clearly, that means we should be able to judge our journey. However, how do we judge our journey without becoming proud, or how do we do it in a Vaishnava way? I think there are 2 factors. The first thing is that when we're judging our progress in spiritual life, we realize that whatever I've achieved or whatever transformation has occurred, it's due to mercy. It's due to the blessings. It's due to grace. I made my endeavor. I tried, but then the Vaishnavas came, Krishna came, and they showered me with mercy. And therefore, I don't feel that I'm the one who's made the change, but rather it's the grace and blessings that were showered upon me that's triggered the change within me. And I think that's one way in which we can say, yes, I am developing some love. I am developing some change of character. My desires are changing. My faith is strengthening, but it's a result of grace and mercy. And I think when we're in that mindset, then we can see progress and transformation, but not become puffed up or proud about it, or think that we are the doers or the creators of that transformation. The other thing is that I think when we're looking at our own transformation, then we don't look at it in a vacuum. We don't just look at it ourselves. Vaishnavas are there. Shiksha Gurus are there. Diksha Guru is there. Senior devotees are there. And they help us to see our own life, our own heart. And they can help us to identify what kind of transformation has occurred. And in that way, it's not based on our perceptions only, but it's based on perceptions out from a neutral and mature perspective. So I think these are some reflections on your question that, yes, transformation, we're here for transformation. Our transformation, we understand, is being triggered by mercy, and our transformation is being identified not just by our own mind and our own judgment, but by Vaishnavas as well. These are some thoughts, but please, you can respond and we can take it further.
Well, I have one little comment that, just like as I understand that reincarnation was taken out of the Christian faith, just so people don't become lazy, since, okay, I can't do it this time around, so I'll do it next time. I'll try better. So this argument of grace and mercy maybe will make you lazy. Say, well, yeah, I have endeavor 78%, and here Bhakta Joe has endeavored 2.5%, and he got the same results. So why should I bother doing the effort? I just wait for mercy. I just sit and pray.
Yeah, of course, we know that misconception can be there. Of course, we do have Krishna's statements where Krishna says, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam stateva bhajami aham. So I reward according to your surrender. We know that Krishna is looking to reciprocate with his devotees. We hear the famous statement, when we take 1 step to Krishna, Krishna takes 10 towards us. So then we say, why not just 1 step? Why not take 5 steps? And Krishna will make many, many more. And so I think we do also have this, although we believe in, of course, we are a movement of mercy and grace, we don't, we know that is couched within a philosophy in which effort and endeavor is also established as an attractor of grace, and as something which Krishna looks to in order to bestow mercy upon us. So we know the story of Mother Yashoda tying Krishna and the fact that it's 2 fingers too short, and that represents effort and mercy. So both are concepts which are intertwined. It's interesting, for example, at the end of the 6th canto, where we hear about Ajamil chanting one name of, Narayana, 4 syllables, and the 4 Vishnu Dutas appear. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives the commentary and explains how we should then react to that. He says, the reader should look at this and think, if Ajamil got so much mercy from chanting one name, what will happen to me if I chant the name my whole life? He said, Ajamil got all this mercy even though he didn't indicate the Lord when he was chanting. So how much more mercy will I get if I chant with a proper conception of the Lord? Ajamil chanted the name, performing all sinful activities. So how much more benefit I will get if I chant and live a sinless life? Ajamil chanted the name right at the end of his life. But what if I fill the days throughout my life chanting the holy name? How much more mercy I'll get? And so when Vaishnavas look at how much mercy Krishna is willing to give someone who does a small amount of effort, actually it's meant to inspire them to think, I should invest the totality of what I can give, because then Krishna's reciprocation will be so much greater. Like if you go to the bank and they say, if you invest £1, you're going to get $1,000 back. One is not going to go to the bank and just say, well, I'll just put $1 in then. They're going to put as much as they can in, because they know there's so much more to get. That would be the intelligent logic. So yeah, some thoughts. Thank you so much. So, yeah, you can.
I don't know if anybody else has any comments. They can raise their virtual or the real hand and ask. Meanwhile, I'll keep you busy, because I'm very interested in your perspective. Sometimes, actually regularly every year, I'm invited as a guest speaker at a global religions class, and now, of course, online. And even though I begin with a presentation of Krishna consciousness and its philosophy and lifestyle and et cetera, mostly they're interested in the sociological aspect of religion, and particularly in the subject of conversion, which can be understood as, we understand it as transformation, but they understand it as conversion. You were something and you become something else. So how do you explain to let's say cultural audience like the one you have right now, that we are not converting to anything, we are actually transforming? And what's the main difference?
Yeah, such a great question. The immediate thing that comes to my mind is that when we're talking about conversion, we're talking about an external change of identity. Whereas when we're talking about transformation, what we're talking about is the internal change of heart towards a universal spiritual quality of love that will be accepted across the board as the highest aspiration of every single living being. So when we talk about Krishna, therefore it's interesting, Prabhupada said, we're not a religion, often he would say, or sometimes he would say, real religion means the awakening of love. Save pumsham paro dharmo yato bhakti radhok sajay. So I would, in that kind of forum, what I would try to teach is that we're not here to convert an external identity from one thing to another, but rather our real goal is to transform the heart into a loving heart, a heart which has respect for all living beings, a heart which has characters filled with qualities like tolerance, kindness, compassion, a heart which values selflessness over selfishness, which values giving over taking, and will a world filled with people who undergo such a transformation of heart, won't such a world look like a much more beautiful place? And so I think when we talk about, this slide I had where we talk about love and desires and character and commitment, faith, I think these are all beautiful qualities that will just make the world a better place. And in that way, we can share that Krishna consciousness, we're not trying to convert an external identity, but what we're really trying to do is transform the internal heart towards a universal spiritual aspiration for love, which is what will make the world a beautiful place.
Now, when we speak of advancement, is often associated with sadhu sangha. That's one of the main necessities in order to make advancement. But how do we, and it says that we should choose the association of advanced devotees. Now, by symptoms, you can more or less ascertain who is an advanced devotee or who is not. But sometimes we take external symbols to be internal. So we don't have this power of discrimination very clear. And this is not just among us. Even Kadadhar Pandit himself had a hard time recognizing Pundarika Vidyanidhi as an advanced devotee. So what are the steps that you recommend to recognize who is an advanced devotee and how to choose our association?
Yeah, again, a very nice point. So as you mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, I think on maybe 4 occasions in the Gita, or maybe even 5, Krishna begins to outline the qualities of an advanced spiritualist. And we know those sections. It comes in the 2nd chapter, it comes in 13, 16, many places. But your point is that, in English language, it takes one to know one. So unless one is an advanced devotee themselves, how can they identify the advancement of someone else? And it seems as though they will only be able to judge it based on externals. What I would say is in Vaishnav Sadhu Sangha and Vaishnav relationships, I think relationships are built organically. And we begin somewhere. We begin with some faith, even if that faith is based on something external. This person wears a dhoti, this person is at Mangalarti every single day, and this person, they can quote at least significant parts of the scripture. That gives me some faith that this person has some advancement in their spiritual life and is worth associating with. That doesn't mean you invest spiritual life in that person's hands, but it gives you some initial faith to at least begin hearing from them. And then as you hear from them, as you serve them, as you exchange with them and open your heart and they open their heart, you become privy to more and more insights as to the depth of their character. And that can then inspire you to invest more faith in that person. Therefore, our Goswamis are even mentioning that when one accepts a spiritual master, there is a testing period by which the guru tests the disciple, and also by which the disciple tests the guru. Then sometimes you think, like, how can the disciple test the guru? In one sense, what the disciple is doing is they're testing the guru, but what they're really testing is their ability to put faith in that person. And so what I would say is in Sadhu Sangha, I think we can do things step by step and begin with some level of faith, and through a natural process of inquiry, service, guyamakyati prachati, open-hearted exchange, I think we can very naturally begin to find a natural way in which we can put more faith in that person. I'll just say one more thing, and then I'll let you come back on this. I think also Krishna, in the form of the holy name, and Krishna, who's residing within the heart of the living entity, also invests us with a conviction in Vaishnavas who can help us. And so I think Krishna is also very much present and helping a sincere devotee who's trying to find sincere association so that they can really advance. And Krishna helps us to find that person and then put faith in that person.
Just for your information, I don't have a comeback. I'm just listening faithfully.
No, this is really nice because it churns it further. Yeah, thank you.
But you open another box about the Dati Pratignati, about the exchanges among devotees, and if they're in the same level, which is more or less something you can calculate. The problem I see is it's no problem exchanging prasadam and gifts. The problem is exchanging confidences because we lack trust. That is, and more or less it goes all the way to Krishna, that we don't trust Krishna. Otherwise, we would surrender immediately if we trusted that he has our interest, our best interest in mind. So how do you fix the trust issue?
Yeah. I would kind of draw upon some of the points I made to the previous question, which I think, again, trust is developed over time. I think there's, like I was even mentioning, faith, how faith transforms over time. And I think trust is not something which can be intellectualized. Trust is not something which can be instituted. Trust is not something which can be organized by a certain amount of factors. Trust is a matter of the heart. Trust is a natural inclination that flows towards a certain person. And I think that has to come naturally. And Krishna says there is discussion, there's service, and there's a vulnerability also, which is an important part of trust building. That if we want to get to another level of trust with someone, then we have to be willing to have some level of vulnerability in order to allow a deeper manifestation in that relationship to come about. So again, I would just lean back on that and say, yeah, we do have trust issues. It's Kali Yuga. They say followers question everything and leaders do questionable things. And therefore there's this double sense of skepticism in the air of who can I really trust. But again, I think we have to begin somewhere and then let that trust. I think also there's another point I'll make, that although we feel like Kali Yuga is full of skepticism, the natural function of the soul is to want to put faith, actually, to want to put faith in others, to want to take shelter of others. But because we've been disconnected from the Supreme, and we're in this world, there's a certain level of insecurity that all of us have. And therefore, on one hand, we desire the security of being under the shelter, but on another hand, we feel the insecurity of perhaps being exploited. And so this double thing is going on. But actually, I think it's the inherent quality of a soul to want to have shelter. But because we've been let down in so many ways, we're scarred. And so we have to almost rebuild that capacity to take shelter that capacity to trust in loving relationships. And that will be the success of our communities. If there's a community in which people feel confident to begin putting faith in others, that's a vibrant community. Yeah.
It is interesting that we have to get our tips on love from someone who has renounced mundane love.
Yeah, of course, in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, love is the aspiration of every ashram. It's interesting, even you look at Mahaprabhu, actually, he puts relationships over love, relationships over renunciation. For example, he renounces family life, but then he goes to Shantipur and he sees his mother, even though generally a sannyasi would not see their mother in that way. Mahaprabhu does it because he puts love, relationships before renunciation. Even when the Orisan lady steps on Mahaprabhu, and Govinda chastises her, Mahaprabhu appreciates her because he says it's more about relationships of love than renunciation. So it's interesting that vairagya means renunciation, but another double meaning of vairagya is vishesha rag, which means a special type of attachment. So a vairagi is one who has renounced the world, but real renunciation from the world is only possible if you have a very special type of attachment to Krishna. So that's renunciation in bhakti, full of love and full of relationships. Yeah.
We usually misunderstand the meaning of renunciation, because renunciation in our case doesn't mean very much because we don't own anything. What are you giving up that is yours?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's simply not being a thief, it will be the definition of renunciation in our case.
Yes, definitely.
In one of the icons that you see in the temple room, we have a retreat going on with the young Sangha initiative of devotees. So there's about 20 devotees. I'm afraid they're about to start Guru Puja, but if any of them has any question for Maharaj, I will strongly urge you to ask now. You can unmute yourselves and ask anything.
Prem Kishore, Kishore Mataji, yes.
There is a lot of echo. Perhaps you can type it on the chat if you have a question. So Maharaj, you wanna give us the conclusion?
Okay. Prabhu, can I try now?
Oh, here, yeah. You can.
Here we go.
Fine.
Sorry, I'm sitting in the DD room and there was a speaker. Like Maharaj's voice is going in many, many places, and one is my small phone. Thank you so much, Maharaj. I have read all your books and still read, and there's so much nectar to learn. And before we take class, we refer to your Bhagavad Gita notes. So thank you so much for all your service. One question I have is, you actually put a life in the model that you showed. There's just not words, but the way you spoke is very authentic. One is that in my little experience of being with the movement, the items that you showed in reflecting our own transformations, somehow or other, I have been also a part of it, that you actually idealize somebody like a devotee whose faith, whose commitment, whose desire, whose taste is something that you're idealizing. But then things change. And then what happens is that our own faith, our own commitment, our own desire, our own everything also shakes a little bit. So it's then it feels like we have gone back rather than going forward. We have taken a step back. So could you please elaborate that who should be, or maybe not the should be, how can we learn how to idealize and who should be set as a role model to follow in Sadhu Sangha? I mean, I know we have Acharyas, we have Srila Prabhupada, we have Parampara, we have spiritual master, but you see, I'm sitting in Gitanagari, I need these devotees, and I don't know if then I need them more, and I know that, but if something happens, God forbid, tomorrow, then I will be devastated completely. So
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, yeah, it's a really nice point. One thing I'll share just as a precursor to your response to your question is that I think for me, what really gave me faith in the Krishna consciousness movement is that very, very quickly I realized that saints are not just people of the past. Saints are not just the people we read about in the Shastra. Saints are not just from previous generations, but we live amongst saints. There are living saints now. There are devotees who are extremely dedicated and who are practicing on extremely high levels of Krishna consciousness. And if we're desirous and we want to find them, then Krishna will definitely guide us towards them. And I have that feeling very strongly from the devotees that I've been so fortunate to interact with in my time here in the Krishna consciousness movement. But just in response to your question of idealizing transformation, it's a really beautiful point. And I think one thing I always share with devotees is that there's the reality of where we are, and there's the ideal of where we want to be, and there's this gap, and this gap is kind of uncomfortable, and we feel like, oh my God, will I ever make it to where I want to be? It seems so far away. What I often tell devotees is don't just look how far you have to go, but also reflect and be grateful for how far you've already come. And so having gratitude, having appreciation for how much transformation has occurred within us, not such that we become proud or not such that we become kind of complacent, but when we look at our lives and we say, yeah, I have transformed by the mercy of the Vaishnavas and my small efforts, we have changed. Then what happens is we look forward and we see that, yeah, there's so much more I have to change. But if I continue in the process, I feel very, very hopeful that it will happen. And so this is a mantra that really helps me. Don't just look how far you have to go, but also appreciate how far you've come in this journey of Krishna consciousness by the mercy of the devotees. The second point I'd make, Prem Kishori Mataji, to your points is, I think life will always be full of ups and downs. I don't think there's a point in this world, someone once told me, when you see someone's ECG, it's always up and down. If you saw a flat line ECG, well, that wouldn't be a very good sign, because life means there's movement. And so I think there are always times when we experience ups and downs. But what will happen in Krishna consciousness as we transform ourselves is that the ups and downs will happen, but they'll happen on a higher and higher level. And so in the beginning, a bad day might be you chanted 2 rounds. Later on, a bad day might be you chanted 8 rounds. Later on, a bad day might be that you chanted your 16 rounds, but they were inattentive. In other words, we always have ups and downs, but we go to higher and higher levels of practice, and in that way we're moving towards Krishna. So yeah, spiritual life is a journey. There are ideals, but there is also the progress that we've made. There are ups and downs, but that doesn't mean we're still not growing in Krishna consciousness. And we should take comfort that there are devotees who are really practicing this on a deep level, and should we be desirous, Krishna will introduce us to those devotees, and those devotees may be closer than you think. We tend to think all the advanced devotees are in all the other yatras, or all the advanced devotees are on the other side of the world. Prabhupada once gave that example. I think there was a Jewish monastery and no one was joining. And then one of the leaders came and said, do you know that the next Messiah is amongst you? And then all the other monks started looking at each other thinking, well, he's got that defect, but he does have this good point. Maybe it's him. And this monk, oh, well, he does have that weakness, but he does have these strong points. Maybe it's him. And they started looking at all their fellow practitioners in a different way, appreciating them, knowing that maybe they're the next Messiah, and the relationships completely changed. Everything went up, and many, many people became attracted because there was a culture of appreciation amongst those around us. So, yeah, the pure devotees, by Prabhupada's grace, the pure devotees are with us today, and the sincere devotees are there. We may say, even if I don't find a pure devotee, if I find a progressive devotee, that is also a great wealth in my life, because that kind of sincere association, we can really help each other to grow. So these are some thoughts on your comment, question, Kishore Mataji. I hope it helps in some way. Thank you. I don't know, Sarvatma Prabhu, if we're going, we've come to our natural conclusion in time.
Time is not much of a problem, but we'll say yes, so it's okay. If you have any final words, please, this will be a good time.
Yeah, my final words, there are many more parts to this presentation where we dig a little deeper, and maybe we can do that in future sessions. But
we will love that.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I'll just maybe add one last thing, which I feel is very central to transformation, which has really helped me. Somehow or other, I looked at our tradition, and I felt that our tradition was a tradition of writing, and a tradition of also journaling and writing diaries. Prabhupada wrote diaries. Chaitanya Charitamrita is based on the diaries of Murari Gupta. And so one thing that I began doing 25 years ago was writing a journal of my thoughts, my inner observations of my own heart, my own character, my hopes, my fears, my observations of the day, nice things I heard in a class, interesting conversations I had with a devotee. And I began journaling, and somehow or other, I've managed to maintain that habit of journaling for nearly 25 years. And I found that it's perhaps one of the most powerful ways in which I've been able to understand my own inner world. It's been a powerful way in which I've been able to identify when and how transformation has occurred. And it's been a powerful way to look back at my journey and see how things have changed and how things will continue to change and can continue to change if I go on in this process. And so journaling is something I definitely recommend. And not to self-promote myself, but if you're interested in journaling, I did do a session on journaling with ISKCON Columbus. So if you go on YouTube and you write in at that time I was Sutapa. So if you write in Sutapa journaling workshop, you'll probably get it. And it gives some of my reflections and ideas on how we can journal. And I think journaling is a very central part to transformation. So something you may want to explore in your own time. But thank you so much, Sarvat Mahaprabhu, for inviting me. It's really an honor. And thank you for churning many of the points through your questions and comments. And I do hope to be with all of you again very soon by Krishna's mercy.
We hope so as well. One more small question. Do you reread your journals even from 25 years ago?
Yeah, that's the main thing that I do. Like today is the 29th of July. And what I'll probably do maybe at some point today is open up my journal and read what I wrote on the 29th of July 5 years ago, read what I wrote on this day 10 years ago, and read what I wrote on this day 20 years ago. And it brings many realizations, and it brings Krishna consciousness alive, because you see this is a living process, which is really transforming us, and it just inspires you to continue in the process. Yeah.
We're going to hold you to your word that this is going to be just the first of a series of encounters. And now I'm going to ask, first I'm going to offer my gratitude to you for accepting and enlightening us, at least attempting to do that, since we have free will. But I'm going to ask everybody else in the forum to please unmute themselves and offer their own word in their own words, their gratitude to you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. I feel so inspired.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Very inspiring class.
Thank you so much.
Haribol,
Thank you
Haribol.
so much, Maharaj.
Okay, the
We'll see
body.
you all again soon. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you very much. Very inspiring class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, devotees, for attending the class. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.